Content warning. This video may contain graphic discussions of violent crimes, including murder, missing persons cases, and child abuse. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Welcome back to True Crime Chronicles. To our dedicated community, it's great to have you here. And to anyone just discovering us, a sincere welcome. Before we begin, a quick note on our process. Each story is built from careful research, drawing on verified online news archives, documentary evidence, and credible public sources. We trace the timeline so you don't have to. Now, let's open the case file together. On June 7th, 1998, in Jasper, Texas, a man was chained to a pickup truck and dragged until his body came apart. This is his story. On a quiet Sunday morning in June 1998, a young man driving home from work in Jasper, Texas, noticed something strange on the side of the road. He thought it was a dead deer at first, but as he got closer, he realized he was looking at a human torso. No arms, no head, just a chest and hips lying in a ditch in front of a black community's cemetery. What police discovered over the next 48 hours would shock the nation, expose the deep roots of white supremacy in America, and change hate crime laws forever. To understand the horror of what happened that night, we first need to know who James Byrd Jr. was. And to everyone who knew him, he was simply unforgettable. James Byrd Jr. was born on May 2nd, 1949, in Beaumont, Texas. He was the third of 9 children. His mother was a Sunday school teacher. His father was a deacon at the Greater New Bethel Baptist Church. Faith and family were the foundation of his life. In 1967, James graduated from Jasper High School. It was the last segregated class in Jasper. He was part of a generation caught between the Old South and something new. James got married. He had 3 children, Renee, Ross, and Jamie. Life wasn't always easy for him. Between 1969 and 1996, he had several run-ins with the law, all minor stuff, theft, forgery, parole violations. But those who knew him didn't define him by his mistakes. His sister described him as a clown, always singing, always doing impersonations. He'd walk through town visiting neighbors, cracking jokes, making people laugh. He played piano and trumpet. He sang at birthday parties and funerals. A fall in adulthood had left him partially disabled, but it never slowed him down. He made money selling vacuum cleaners. His sister said he could sell anything. By June 1998, James was 49 years old. He lived alone in Jasper. He was divorced, but close with his kids. On the night of June 6th, he went to a bridal shower for his niece. He had no idea it would be the last normal moment of his life. Around midnight on June 7th, James Byrd Jr. left the party and started walking home down Martin Luther King Drive. It was a warm East Texas night. He was tired, maybe a little drunk, and just wanted to get to his apartment. That's when a pickup truck pulled up beside him. Inside that truck were 3 white men. The driver was 23-year-old Sean Berry. He wasn't a racist, according to those who knew him. He was just a local kid, a high school dropout who managed a movie theater. James knew Sean from around town. He'd probably seen him at the gas station or the grocery store. When Sean offered him a ride, James didn't hesitate. He got in, but Sean Berry wasn't alone. In the truck with him were 2 other men, 31-year-old Lawrence Russell Brewer and 23-year-old John William King. Brewer and King were not just troublemakers. They were avowed white supremacists. Both had served time in Texas prisons. They met at the Beto unit, a prison known for its violent gangs. To protect themselves inside, they joined a white supremacist gang called the Confederate Knights of America. By the time they got out, they were radicalized. King had multiple racist tattoos, Nazi symbols, the words Aryan pride, and one tattoo that police would later find particularly disturbing, a tattoo of a black man hanging from a tree. Sean Berry lived with Brewer and King at a crappy apartment in Jasper. He wasn't a white supremacist himself, but he was impressionable, and he was with them that night. Instead of taking James home, Sean Berry drove out of town. We'll never know exactly what James was thinking as the truck left the city limits. Maybe he thought they were going to buy beer. Maybe he was too tired to notice. No streetlights, no houses for miles. The truck stopped. Everyone got out. And then, for reasons that may never be fully understood, the three white men turned on James Byrd Jr. They robbed him of $40. They taunted him with racial slurs. James Byrd Jr. was still alive for what came next. They took a 24-foot logging chain and wrapped it around James's ankles. And they hooked the other end to the bed of Sean Berry's Ford pickup truck. Sean Berry later claimed he tried to stop them. He said Lawrence Brewer looked at him and said, "Get back in the truck or you're next." Sean Berry got behind the wheel. Lawrence Brewer and John King were in the truck bed cheering. And at 1:30 in the morning, on June 7th, 1998, Sean Berry hit the gas. Huff Creek Road is paved with asphalt, rough, unforgiving asphalt. The truck accelerated to about 45 miles per hour. James Byrd Jr. was dragged behind it, his body slamming against the road. For the first mile and a half, James was conscious. He struggled to keep his head up. His body was being ground down by the road. His ribs fractured, almost every single one of them, but his skull and brain were found intact. That's how forensic examiners knew. He was awake. He was aware. He was feeling every second of it. About halfway through the 3-mile stretch, James Byrd Jr.'s body hit a concrete culvert, a drainage ditch running under the road. The impact was so violent that it severed his right arm and his head. He was finally dead. But the truck kept going. For another mile and a half, they dragged what was left of him, his torso, his remaining limbs. They dragged him past the New Hope Baptist Church. And then they stopped in front of a black community cemetery right across the road from the church. They unhooked the chain. They left his mutilated body in the ditch. And then they drove away. Where did they go? To get something to eat. They went to a barbecue. The next morning, Sunday, June 7th, the sun rose over Jasper. Church bells rang. Families put on their Sunday best. And somewhere in town, James Byrd Jr.'s family wondered why he hadn't come home. A young man named Mario Benford was driving home from work around 6:30 that morning. He saw something in the ditch on Huff Creek Road. He thought it was a dead deer. But as he got closer, he realized it was a human body. He flagged down a passing motorist. They called the sheriff. Sheriff Billy Rolls was driving to Dallas for a golf tournament when he heard the call on the radio. A possible hit and run. When he got to Huff Creek Road, he saw tracks on the ground. At first, he thought they were tired tracks, but they weren't. Sheriff Rolls followed the trail. For 3 miles, he found evidence of what had happened: pieces of flesh, shards of bone, a trail of blood and tissue smeared across the asphalt. And at the end of it, lying in front of an African-American cemetery, was the torso of James Byrd Jr. His head was found a mile and a half away, near the concrete culvert that had killed him. In total, investigators found 81 different locations along Huff Creek Road that held portions of James Byrd Jr.'s remains. Sheriff Rolls knew immediately this wasn't a hit and run. Hit and runs don't involve chains wrapped around ankles. He called the Texas Rangers. He called the FBI. Within 24 hours, the full weight of federal law enforcement was descending on Jasper, Texas. And the killers had been sloppy, really sloppy. Along the dragging route, investigators found a wrench with a name engraved on it, Berry, Sean Berry's wrench. They also found a cigarette lighter with the nickname engraved on it, Possum. Possum was John King's prison nickname. They found beer cans, and they found a cigarette, but with DNA. And when they searched the apartment where Berry, Brewer, and King lived, they found Sean Berry's truck. The undercarriage was caked with blood and tissue, human remains. All 3 men were in jail by Sunday night. Sean Berry talked first. He claimed he was just a witness, a terrified kid who went along because Brewer threatened to kill him too. He said Brewer and King were the ones who attacked James, who chained him up, who made him drive. Lawrence Brewer told a different story. He claimed it was Sean Berry who cut James' throat before they ever chained him up. He said Barry was the real killer, and he and King were just along for the ride. But John King didn't deny anything. He bragged. In a letter intercepted by jail officials, King wrote to Brewer, quote, "Regardless of the outcome of this, we have made history. Death before dishonor. Sieg Heil. Sieg Heil." The Nazi salute. He signed off with a white supremacist symbol. And in another letter, he talked about a book called The Turner Diaries, a white supremacist novel that inspired the Oklahoma City bombing. King's body was a canvas of hate. Jasper, Texas, became the center of the world in 1999. News trucks lined the streets. Protesters from both sides clashed outside the courthouse. The Byrd family sat through every moment, praying for justice, but also praying for their own souls. 3 trials, 3 convictions, but not 3 death sentences. Lawrence Brewer was first. The prosecution called him a racist psychopath. A psychiatrist testified that he showed no remorse. The jury agreed. He was sentenced to death. John King was next. His own letters convicted him. His tattoos convicted him. The jury took less than 2 hours to give him the death penalty. But Sean Barry was different. His attorneys brought 3 black men to testify that Sean wasn't a racist. He showed remorse. He cooperated with police. The jury believed that while Sean Barry was guilty of murder, he wasn't the architect. He was sentenced to life in prison. He survives. Lawrence Brewer sat on death row for 12 years. On September 21st, 2011, the day before his execution, a Houston news station asked if he had any regrets. "No, I'd do it all over again, to tell you the truth." But before he died, Brewer made one last request, a last meal. And not just any last meal. He asked for 2 chicken fried steaks, a triple patty bacon cheeseburger, a cheese omelet, a bowl of fried okra, a pound of barbecued meat, 3 fajitas, a meat lover's pizza, a pint of ice cream, a slab of peanut butter fudge, 3 root beers. It was delivered to him, and then he refused to eat any of it. He said he wasn't hungry. The backlash was immediate. A state senator demanded Texas abolish the tradition of last meals. John King lasted longer. He fought his execution for years. But on April 24th, 2019, he was pronounced dead at 7:08 p.m. Throughout all of this, James Byrd Jr.'s family has carried a burden that most of us can't imagine. 3 of his sisters are Jehovah's Witnesses. Their faith taught them something remarkable. They released a joint statement after the murders. Quote, "Having a loved one tortured and lynched produced an unimaginable sense of loss and pain. How does one respond to such a brutal act? Retaliation, hateful speech, or promotion of hate-ridden propaganda never entered our mind. We thought, what would Jesus have done? How would he have responded? The answer was crystal clear. His message would have been one of peace and hope. James' only son, Ross Byrd, became an activist against the death penalty. He campaigned to spare the lives of the men who killed his father. He joined an organization called Murder Victims' Families for Reconciliation. The family created the James Byrd Foundation for Racial Healing. They set up a hotline. They gave scholarships. They put a bench outside the Jasper County Courthouse with a quote, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." But it hasn't been easy. Byrd's grave has been desecrated twice. Vandals spray-painted racial slurs on his headstone. The family had to install an iron gate around it to protect it. His sister said, "That's when we knew we still had a whole lot to do. Hate can eat at you and make you do the worst things imaginable." The murder of James Byrd Jr. changed laws. In 2001, Texas passed the James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Act. It increased penalties for crimes motivated by race, religion, sexual orientation, or disability. In 2009, President Barack Obama signed the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act. For the first time, federal law protected people based on gender, sexual orientation, and gender identity. But laws don't change hearts. In Jasper today, many residents don't talk about what happened. Some deny it was about race at all. They say it was a drug deal gone wrong. They say the media made them look bad. A reporter visiting Jasper in 2018 noted that a dozen white residents told him racial hatred wasn't the motivation, even though the killers had Nazi tattoos, even though they used racial slurs, even though they left James's body in front of a black community cemetery. The Byrd family requested that June 7th be declared James Byrd Jr. Day in Jasper. The mayor agreed. But 25 years after the murder, his sister admitted that fundraising for the foundation has become much harder. She said, "People don't want to fund it because they think there's no hate in the world. There are haters everywhere." Young people in Jasper today often don't learn about James Byrd Jr. in school. A 23-year-old nurse said her parents told her about him when she graduated high school. "They were trying to let me know the kind of world we live in, that you never know and you have to be careful and cautious." A 36-year-old woman recalled showing her 13-year-old niece Byrd's grave and telling her the story. She said her eyes just got so wide. The youth is not talking about it as much as we did. On a spring afternoon in 2018, two of James Byrd Jr.'s former neighbors sat on lawn chairs off Huff Creek Road. They drank Bud Light, they laughed, they traded memories. One of them said he was a clown, always singing, always doing impersonations. He said he was going to make history. He did make history, just not the kind anyone wanted. His body was found on a Sunday morning, on the same road where he used to visit neighbors, in front of a cemetery across from a church. In the town where he was born, where he graduated, where he raised his children, where everyone knew his name. Lawrence Burr is dead. John King is dead. Sean Berry sits in a cell. But James Byrd Jr. is gone. And no execution, no law, no amount of justice can bring him back. What happened to James Byrd Jr. was not an accident. It was not a prank gone wrong. It was a lynching in 1998 in America. And the only way to honor his memory is to remember, to teach, to refuse to look away. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Thank you for watching True Crime Chronicles. If you want to learn more about this case, we recommend the documentary Two Towns of Jasper and the Showtime film Jasper, Texas. If you or someone you know has experienced a hate crime, contact the Department of Justice's hate crime reporting line at 1-855-856-1515. Remember their names, remember their stories, and never stop seeking justice. And so we bring another dark chapter to a close here on True Crime Chronicles. We share these stories not to sensationalize tragedy, but to remember the victims and to learn from the past. Our shared curiosity is what binds this community together. To ensure you never miss an investigation, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you found today's story compelling, please share your thoughts in the comments and share this video to help others find our channel. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay compassionate, and keep seeking truth.